Welcome to the Learning Zone with Miss Beachley, Miss Hall, and Miss Bates.
Okay, today is Friday, and we are going to be using our text evidence when we're doing a response reading prompt. And this comes right out of the standard that we can recount stories, including fables and folk tales, that determine their central message, lesson, or moral. So when we end our week, we want to be thinking, what is the lesson? What have we learned from this story or the stories that we've read? So today your reading agenda is do that phonics practice, watch this instructional video, do an end of week respond to reading, wrap up anything in your term practice book, 15 minutes of iReady reading, and then upload those comprehension journal pages for us to that Friday assignment. So we are looking at the race strategy, and we know that the race strategy is a writing strategy, and we used this writing strategy when answering open-ended questions. We want to make sure our work is organized, neat, and easy to understand so that when we're writing answers, they get better and better every time. I looked at some of your race responses from last week, and you guys had a lot of good ideas. So what we want to focus on is making sure we're putting those good ideas in order and using correct evidence from the text and explaining that evidence well. And that's what I'm going to focus on for today's video. And what we're going to be focusing on is we're going to be answering this question this week, which says, what are the benefits of cooperating with others? Use evidence from the class play and Once Upon a Baby Brother. Explain using a real-life example. Pretty simple. So we're talking about why we should cooperate with others. And this week we've read two texts, the class play out of your term practice book and Once Upon a Baby Brother. And so when we're doing that, we want to talk about what is your evidence or what's your evidence? So we always want to start with our answer, and I want to show you a strategy that you can use to find evidence in your text to make sure you're staying in your answer. And it's really simple. All you're going to need are some Post-it notes or little pieces of paper if you don't have Post-it notes at home. And then once you've thought of your answer, once you've gone and you've restated that question and you've answered the question, don't go straight into writing. You're going to pause. And you're going to go on an evidence hunt. And when you go on this evidence hunt, I want you to write your answer straight on a Post-it note. So I've written my answer on a Post-it note, and I said that cooperating makes people happier. So now I'm going to go back into my text for this week and find evidence that shows exactly where cooperating makes people happier. Because the only time I want to use evidence is when it supports my answer. If my evidence doesn't support my answer, it's not good evidence. And maybe if I can't find anything, I'm going to have to change my answer. So I have my book, and I can go through my book, or I can go through my text if it's paper, and I can look for spots where cooperating made the characters more happy. Well, in Once Upon a Baby Brother, Lizzie was pretty angry the whole time. And she struggled so much, like she always was yelling at Marvin and screaming and fussing. But then, Lizzie had an idea. And Lizzie starts writing and writing and writing. And then at the end of the story, oh, they look so happy. So I can take my Post-it note and I can mark it right there. But that's not the only story I read this week. So I can use this evidence. Now I've got it marked. I can use this evidence, or I can go to another story. Here's another great place that you can look for evidence. This week you should have written a summary, and you should have also completed a point of view chart for your characters, Lizzie. So if your answer is that cooperating makes other people happy, I want you to go back and look at your summaries. Go back and look at those graphic organizers that you've made this week to help you answer these questions. I have my graphic organizer right here. So I can go back and I can look at this and find, is there a time when cooperating made the character more happy? Then now that I've found the evidence, now I can go back to my writing response and cite my evidence. So I'm going to say, according to the text, I know that cooperating makes people happier because when Lizzie cooperated with her brother, her and her brother were more happy. Now I can explain my answer. I can say, well, this shows me that when I work together, one time when I worked with my sister to solve a problem, we were happier people. Now that I've thought through all of this, I can go and I can write a full race response. I want you to take the time before you write your race response to think about what your answer is. And then I want you to go using Post-it notes or other pieces of paper on an evidence hunt and make sure that there's evidence to support your answer. And then I want you to really focus on, after you've used the evidence, to explain that evidence well. I think this is probably where we need the most work. And when we come back from intercession, I'm going to focus next time on how are we going to explain our evidence. So this is pretty much it for this week. We are going to wrap up the end of this week by answering the end of week wrap-up question using the race format. I want you to make sure that you do the Your Turn practice book on page 220. Hint, hint, if you watch this whole video, this is a sample response. Hint, hint, there might be some things that help you see how to put together a good response. I want you to upload any other comprehension questions you've completed this week on Class Dojo or Google Classroom if you haven't been submitting them digitally. And I want you to make sure that you've completed page 211 to 220 in your Turn practice book. You should also check your iReady reading minutes in the My Progress tab to make sure that you have just about 60 minutes for this week. And then just a reminder, families, we will not be having class sessions Tuesday through Friday of next week. On Monday, we will be posting some videos and some guidance on your research project. But the teachers will be on intercession break, and you guys should also enjoy your intercession break. Use this time to rest, enjoy the weather, get caught up on any work, and we will see where we're going from there. I hope you all have a great weekend and a great intercession week. And thank you so much for joining me through this video and finishing your second week of e-learning.